Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. So this is a pretty grim video. Obviously, the thumbnail kind of says it all. Apparently, the Russians have lost over 200,000 soldiers in Ukraine, whether that's dead or wounded. According to Ukrainian estimates, there have been 200,000 Russians that have died on the battlefield. That is a lot. That is more than the Russians, the Soviets lost during their 10-year war in Afghanistan from the late 70s to the early 80s. So this is a screenshot from early in the war. Russia has amassed up to 190,000 troops on Ukraine's borders, 200,000 soldiers dead in the war. So that first screenshot is from, that's this one. Okay, so this is from Friday, 18th of February, 2022. It's from The Guardian. Russia has amassed up to 190,000 troops on Ukraine's borders. 190,000. Up to 190,000. This was published again, like 6 days before, about a week before the full-scale invasion began. Russia amassed up to 190,000, probably close to 200,000. If that number is correct, the entire invasion force, if that number is remotely correct, 190,000, the entire initial invasion force is gone. Like, that is crazy to think. The Russians have lost 200,000, according to Ukrainian Defense Ministry. This was published by the Jerusalem Post, May 17th, 2023. 200,000 Russian soldiers killed in war. Obviously, the casualty count could be well above, could be well below. In terms of wounded, I'm pretty sure it's probably close to 250,000. This is, yeah, I want to, nope, what? Okay. In Defense Ministry, every Russian soldier killed means the life of a child, woman, or elderly is saved. So, Russians essentially lost their entire troop buildup from the beginning of the war. If you look at deepstatemap.com, initially the Russians came south from Belarus to the north, pushed south towards Kiev, ultimately pushed from Kursk Oblast towards Kiev. Did not work. That was that 50-mile long convoy at the beginning of the war. Ultimately, the push towards Kiev failed. And then in the early fall, there was the Kharkiv and Kherson counteroffensives. Much of the fighting has taken place in a handful of places. Places in the neighborhood of Lysychansk. This is Bakhmut right here. I believe Avdiivka is right in here. I think Marinka is right in here. But most of the fighting, Volodar down here also. Ultimately, much of the fighting has taken place in these four areas. Bakhmut has gotten the most attention. Honestly, I think Bakhmut probably consisted of half of those casualties, because Bakhmut's just been a meat grinder. But ultimately, all this green is the area that Russians lost. The areas down here in the east and south is areas that they either did control or currently control. Ultimately, this is going terribly for the Russians. If they amass 200,000 troops at the beginning of the war, all of them are dead, wounded, or just, I don't know. It's absolutely crazy to think that numerically the invasion force that Russia began the war with. Roughly 190,000. Gone. Dead. KIA. Wounded. Missing. I don't know. The Russians started with about 200,000, and about 15 months into the conflict, they're all dead, which is absolutely crazy. This is just insane. The Russians have just been throwing bodies at the problem, hoping, praying that it goes away. And if you just look at it, that's what they've been doing right in this area right here. They've just been throwing, just look at Bakhmut, for example. They've been throwing bodies at the problem here in Bakhmut. And look, they've essentially taken the city, but all the gains that they've made within the past week have all been offset by these counteroffensives in the south and in the north. They took Bakhmut, but at a heavy, heavy cost of roughly 100,000 of the 200,000 killed throughout the war. The entire initial invasion force by the Russians are gone, essentially, is what that means, which is an utter failure on the Russians' part. They've just thrown bodies at the problem, zombie wave tactics, World War Z style, like, it's insane to think that the initial invasion force is now dead, essentially. Yeah, that's wild to even try and conceptualize. That's the end of the video. It's a very grim video to make. That's 200,000 Russians that don't come home, that don't go home to their wives, kids, families, moms, dads. That's 200,000 is just hard to comprehend from that perspective. But Vladimir Putin doesn't seem to care, which is I don't know. The Russians don't seem to care about how many people die, which is mind-boggling. But they don't seem to care, and they're just gonna keep coming and coming and coming until soon enough we're gonna have 300,000 dead, or 400,000, or even 500,000 dead, which is I can't even comprehend 200,000. Yeah, very grim video, unfortunately. But it's the reality on the ground for the Russians. They're not doing well. Their initial invasion force is gone. They're hiring conscripts and criminals from the prisons, and that's who Wagner is trying to recruit. The Russians are going to lose this war, and the price that they're paying is enormous. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully the next couple of videos will be more lighthearted in comparison. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Deuces.